Clare, Daly has 30 seconds to introduce.
Thanks very much, Ceann Comhairle. And Minister, this question is tabled really against the backdrop of some very alarming evidence which has emerged online regarding the escalating and organised nature of some barbaric digging out of foxes in particular, but also badgers, with horrific brutality being displayed in online imagery. And in that context, I'm wondering how many NEPS officers do we have monitoring this activity, and are there any plans to increase that?
Minister has 2 minutes.
Thank you, Deputy Daly, for raising this issue. These are deplorable and illegal activities. An investigating instance of badger baiting or fox baiting, or digging out, as it's sometimes referred to, is one of a large number of actions and interventions carried out by field staff of my department on an ongoing basis. Of my department's total staff, I understand that some 330 work in the area of natural heritage through the National Park and Wildlife Service of my department. And in addition, we take on in the region of 70 seasonal staff during the year to assist the National Parks and Wildlife Service. Frontline conservation rangers are deployed through regional structure, and assignments are determined in light of departmental business needs and priorities. And within this staffing context, officials of my department carry out scientific research, survey work and monitor compliance with national and European law in relation to nature conservation across the country. They conduct paroles and site visits to enforce the various provisions of national and EU legislation as required, and many of these officers carry out work in more than one county. They also investigate reports of breaches of legislation, including illegal snaring or digging out, as you mentioned, of badgers and foxes, as well as monitoring compliance at coursing events, etc. And members of Garda Síochána are also empowered under the Acts to investigate alleged offences and to prosecute if they see fit. Staffing levels across my department are kept under regular review in line with emerging business needs and government policy on public sector pay and staffing as advised by the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform. I will say to you that I did speak to my officials in relation to extra resources, and they have said that it is something that we're going to look at very seriously once the funding is available. Addressing these activities is important to me, and I will arrange, as I said, to allocate what resources I can as a priority. I would also continue to liaise with the Garda Síochána in relation to covert actions with other agencies, and we also, as you know, work with the ISPSCA to counteract these illegal activities. Thank you, Ceann Comhairle.
Deputy Daly has 1 minute.
Thanks, Ceann Comhairle. Minister, I'm aware that the NEPS officers work very hard. I'm also aware through law enforcement officers whom I'm friendly with, who have an interest in animal welfare issues, who have been monitoring some of this activity online, that we now have a situation in Ireland where almost every county has this appalling barbarity being perpetuated, with foxes being dug out, online footage being posted of grown men forcing animals out of the burrows and watching and recording dogs viciously mauling them apart in the name of sport or whatever. Now, this gratuitous violence is being played online, and I think the situation is beyond critical at this stage, particularly in light of some improvements in animal welfare that are currently underway in the UK. We are in danger of almost becoming a haven for this type of barbarity and tourism in this illegal sport. I hate to use the word because it isn't, it's seriously sick. So I'm wondering, would you consider a joint task force with some members of NEPS and members of Garda Síochána, because there are criminal elements involved in some of this, and I think it's actually, as it stands, it's too dangerous for NEPS officers to do the job on their own.
One minute, Minister.
Thank you, Deputy. I mean, one of the difficulties, and as I said earlier, this is a deplorable and illegal activities, both with badgers and foxes, and as badgers, as we know, are protected under the Wildlife Acts, and foxes aren't, but they do come under the Animal Welfare Act in the Department of Agriculture. But one of the issues in relation to this is evidence, and one of the things that they have to be literally caught in the act. It's very difficult from an intel, I suppose, perspective for the guards who can actually investigate and prosecute this as they see fit to find out that information. And I appreciate that it's online, but I suppose when it's online that the event has already happened. But it is something that I take very seriously. I'm open to discussions about a joint task force. I know that the ISPCA and the NPWS signed a Memorandum of Agreement in May 2006, and this facilitates a closer working relationship between them both in relation to wildlife crime and in relation to prosecutions. And as I say, there are at the moment 72 frontline conservation rangers, and we're going to increase this to 84. And we're also going to try and increase the amount of monitoring that we have of this, because it's a very important issue, and we have to put the welfare of these animals and clamp down on this barbaric practice.
Final question, Deputy Daly.
I think this is a kind of a dark underworld that exists in Ireland, and I suppose the concern is that the people involved are becoming more emboldened by the material they're putting up and by the methods of organisation that they have. And some of these people are incredibly dangerous, and you are right, like that there is a question of evidence, but sometimes even when the evidence is found, the people who find the evidence are actually intimidated into not standing up and giving that evidence. So I think we need to be doing an awful lot more, and I'm wondering, Minister, could you consider, would you be able to revert with a point of contact in your department to whom maybe people who have been monitoring this activity online and who have a certain expertise in the area may be able to give some information? Or is there a way in which you could contact or liaise, have members of NEPS liaise with members of An Garda Síochána in a more organised way to consider in a definite sense the idea of a joint task force around this, which could begin by monitoring and following some of the stuff online and then following it up by people on the ground then, because it's incredibly dangerous, and the most worrying thing is where it's leading to and the types of people who are involved in this.
Our final response.
Yes, Deputy. And obviously, if there are specific incidents that you're aware of personally or anyone else that you know, please have them report either to Garda Síochána or to our department. I do believe that they do communicate with each other in terms of a loose task force, if you like. And as I said, there is the Memorandum of Understanding between the ISPCA and the NPWS. There are also patrols and site visits ongoing. But I do appreciate that it could be something that could escalate into the future, this type of activity. And I would like to see more prosecutions. But again, there's because the way it is actually, a lot of the time, it's a routine operational activity, the way they are investigated. So it's very difficult to bring that forward. But I know that there were 30, from between 2013 and 2017, there were 70 prosecutions taken for breaches of the Acts, not specifically in relation to baiting or digging out. But it is something that I take seriously, and I will take your comments on board today, and I appreciate you bringing it to the attention of the House.
Deputy